Therapist perception.
Bachelorette.
Welcome back to Reactivity TV. Amy and I are here talking about the latest episode of Bachelor season 27. So it's week 4 now with Zach Shallcross. And there's a lot happening.
Is there?
Yeah. I mean, he's like interested in people.
Mm-hmm.
I just mean like it's progressing.
I think people are interested in him.
I don't know. Jury's still out.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to tell.
Yeah, but you're right. Like things are progressing along. I mean, it feels like he's really not messing around. Like he's taking it really seriously. And I am getting the sense that like people might actually like him.
Maybe, or they're good actresses.
They might be. That's possible. I mean, I know we were talking a little bit like off camera, but like there is this like, they're really trying to push at us like Zach as like a sexual icon in some way.
Trying to sell us on him.
Yeah, I don't get it. Like, I think he's doing a good job. Just like let him be Zach. You know, we don't need Zach this time.
I think he's doing a fine job.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think we're getting much from him. Like, I think he's doing a fine job being on the receiving end of things. But like, as far as providing us with anything about Zach, like, I don't think I know anything about him.
He was in a band in middle school. That's what we know.
Yeah. And that he has chest hair because he keeps pointing it out.
And he's looking for his best friend.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But like, there's so much more to know. And I don't know, maybe that happens with whoever the Bachelor or Bachelorette is. Maybe like usually we just don't know much about them yet. At the same time though, like he was on the Bachelorette and like, I don't think I got to know him when he was dating, what's her face?
Rachel. Yeah. Well, I think I was just going to say, I think maybe part of the reason that we feel like we don't know him is because he was on like a dual season of The Bachelorette. And like, I feel like we didn't know anybody because there were like so many guys to like, there were 6 guys like in technically the final 3. Mm-hmm. So I think that was a piece of it is like, we just like we usually get to know the main, the lead in like the previous season. And we just like didn't.
Yeah, that's so true. But anyway, as far as things that you took away, what would you like to bring up?
Yes. Well, I was thinking about Zach's first one-on-one of the week with Catherine, who's the nurse in dermatology and loves her sunscreen. I was thinking about the dinner portion of their date. They seem to like have good chemistry. Zach seems really into her. And I think the feeling is reciprocated, at least as far as we can tell. And as we've talked about a lot, like on this show, it feels like there's like a transactional aspect around vulnerability. Like that's just like what you need. Like I share vulnerability, you give me the rose kind of thing. And so like, I'm never quite sure like what's going to come out at the dinner portion, but I really was listening really curiously to what Kat was saying. And she was sharing with Zach about how she's feeling really anxious about the differences in their upbringing and their families of origin, that Zach is so proud of like having these 2 parents that love each other. And he's kind of like seen kind of like go through life together. And that's really what he's looking for. And that was not the experience that Kat had growing up. And so she was not only feeling insecure about that, but feeling insecure about the relationship that she had with her mom. And like, as a viewer, I really wanted a little bit more information about what she was saying. As a therapist, like I understand that, like obviously you should only share what you're comfortable sharing, but I wish we got a little bit more. But it really made me think a lot about what we talked about on our Wishing You Well episode about shame, and just that it seemed like Kat was carrying a lot of shame around having a difference in upbringing, or just a difference in like maybe not having like the stereotypical like nuclear family. And so she had said to him that, or maybe us, that she worries that she's unlovable because of that. And it had me thinking about shame, because it was kind of like calling back to our discussion around like when we feel really different, or maybe when we have experiences that others don't have, or maybe society doesn't kind of like advertise as the norm, we can internalize that as that like there's something wrong with us, or that we're not enough, or we're not lovable. And that seemed to be what Catherine was really experiencing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I also I just want to go back to your the point that you made about the therapist. You understood the boundary that she had there, and the viewer you was like, I don't know, looking for more. And like, I kind of feel like viewer me also respected that she wasn't being so forthright. It did sound like they had that conversation out of the camera, or just like that they didn't like incorporate that into the episode. But I did appreciate that he also didn't like go digging. Mm-hmm. Like if she hadn't already expressed the details, that he didn't pressure her to share that or reshare that, mm-hmm. Or try to understand why she might feel that way. That I think that just the conversation itself, that it was there. Mm-hmm. Now that it's out in the open, now there's some more that can be talked about between the two of them. Mm-hmm. But I think that it was refreshing to see that it wasn't like, I'm worried about this and now let me like solve this problem for you.
Right.
And like, you're totally right in that, like, if she's feeling like this shame, that's also something she has to work through on her own. Mm-hmm. That like, he can't unshame her by being just this like supportive and loving person, if that's what happens.
Yeah. Right. Well, and as you're talking, it's making me think about our conversation with our colleague Carly King related to premarital counseling, and that in-laws, or just like different upbringings, differences in family of origin, can be kind of a stumbling block for some people in relationships if you don't really talk about those things, and if you're not, because I imagine that Kat might go into a relationship maybe having different expectations about boundaries with family than Zach might have. And so like she did open a door to really talk about this some more, because it seems like family is something that she really values. And so it would be helpful for them to like kind of continue this conversation. But you're right. It sounds like she does have things to work through, because it wouldn't surprise me if they do end up together. So that would be something like that I would want Kat to be kind of mindful of, especially as, you know, potentially they approach hometowns for her, or potentially meeting Zach's parents, that I imagine that will kick up some insecurity and anxiety for her. Because again, she was already sitting with this, like this experience around like her own upbringing. Mm-hmm. So it sounds really good that she's like self-aware, and it would be really helpful for her to just continue to keep an eye on that, and how that might be coming up for her.
Mm-hmm. And I wonder how that information sat with Zach, because I just wonder if it really humanized Kat, because he was really seeing her as this like supermodel who, like, he's not really sure if she does, why she would like him, and he was feeling really insecure. So I just wonder if it gave him this other perspective of her, that like, okay, she's more than just what she looks like. There's more going on here, and there's more for me to get to know.
Mm-hmm. Such a good point. You're right. He really did seem to have her on a pedestal. And yeah, you're right. It did humanize her. Even for me, it's like, oh my gosh, this woman is like amazing, gorgeous, like, and she's a human who's had a life. Yeah, that's a really good point. What about you?
So another dinner date, another point of vulnerability. It was the one-on-one dinner portion of the date between Brooklyn and Zach. And I just want to point out how, like you said, people get to this point, you kind of expect them to be vulnerable to an extent. And if you don't, maybe you don't get a rose. And if you do, probably will. And there's also just this discomfort for anybody being vulnerable about anything this is really like a first date. Of course, it's not really being treated like a first date, but it is. So like this person's still very new to you. And so like that's really uncomfortable talking about some very intimate details of your life. And so for a first date, but for like any time, if you haven't crossed that bridge yet, then that can be that much more uncomfortable. Like whatever the information may be that you're sharing. And so I just want to put that out there, that it's just uncomfortable. And then the other thing, this thing specific to what Brooklyn was bringing up, is that she talked about some trauma with domestic violence in her past. Mm-hmm. And I just think that was all that was so hard for her to share. I think as much as like a given as that it is for people to bring up something, that's really, really close to somebody. And yeah, so I just think that was really brave to talk about. I don't think anyone's ever talked about that on this show before. So it was new to the audience too. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. No, as you were saying that's what I was thinking too. And that I don't know like how much Brooklyn's told that story like in her life. But that is such a big vulnerable thing to share on national television, and with a guy you don't really know. And so like I really appreciate her sharing her experience with domestic violence, abuse, intimate partner violence. And the other thing that I'm thinking about, and I guess like our wishing you well shame episode is heavy on my heart, because I was thinking about that too. And what Brooklyn was describing was being in a relationship that was abusive for 6 years. And she described like how she had changed throughout that relationship. And it didn't sound like these were necessarily new issues, that these were ongoing issues throughout her relationship. And I felt grateful that Brooklyn shared, because I think, again, IPV and domestic violence aren't things that are really talked about or like out in the open. And there's so much criticism and so much judgment around people that remain in relationships that like are abusive or violent. And obviously as therapists, we know that like it is really, really challenging to get out of an abusive relationship. And so I think there is a part of like Brooklyn sharing this and sharing her experience, like that was so normalizing, and I hope so validating for women that might have been watching this who are in like maybe similar experiences, that like,
and empowering,
right? Like, yes, like you don't just leave overnight, and you can be okay. And so I liked that she was able to kind of share both sides of that it wasn't like, okay, one time and I'm out. And when I did get out and I found myself again. And so I appreciated that so much. Yeah. Lots of vulnerability.
Lots of vulnerability. And if anyone wants to check out our shame episode of Wishing You Well, it is it's up on Spotify and Apple Podcasts on February 17th. So definitely check it out. Mm-hmm. And we'll put a link to that in the comment, in the caption.
Yeah, for sure. Can I just say one more thing? Mm-hmm. Not shame related. I guess I just wanted to potentially vent and like figure out a way to put a therapist spin on it.
Ooh, okay.
Okay. So this was the second week, and we see this every season, like it doesn't matter, like, but this was the second week in a row that, or maybe it's even the third time this season that we see someone
I totally know what you're going to say.
Go to Zach and use their time to complain or talk about somebody else. And like, that is wrong.
Pitting Zach
mm-hmm.
against somebody else mm-hmm. to benefit yourself. You're literally pitting women against each other.
Right. Well, and I just like don't love the, like, I'm doing it like out of best interest for Zach. Like, no, you're not. And it's like one of those things where like, time is so limited. We hear that from like everybody that's on the show. Time is so limited. And you need to use your time to build connections, not create wedges between the lead and other people. Like you need to be secure enough in yourself that you can connect with this person or in your connection. And if he is someone that you want potentially as a partner, you should have enough trust in him that he can suss out like whoever's not there for the quote unquote right reasons. And so like when I saw Kaylee do that this week, I was so frustrated because it felt like so obvious, and maybe editing, right? But like so obvious that like we saw this exchange between her and Anastasia, which was really interesting, interpretations of the same event. And then she brought this exchange to Zach. And it was just like, it's very resourceful. My therapist take very resourceful. You're trying to.
You love saying resourceful. You love it.
Very resourceful because I want to say something else, but resourceful is my therapist word, and is going to blow up in her. And it did blow up in her face. She felt so guilty. She was spiraling. She was so anxious. Like, and you wasted your time. Wasted.
Completely. And I mean, I just think that, well, also that was secondhand information too. Oh, it wasn't even Anastasia coming up to you and saying, I'm going to get 50,000 followers off of this. We're all going to, at least we get that. Like you heard that from Charity, who had heard it. And like, I mean, it was such a strong pull of like desperation that just didn't even work out for her.
No. And you can see right through it. And again, if I were like her prospective partner, like that's not being secure and confident, like in yourself. Right. Like, so that's like an unattractive quality. And like, I wish, like, I can understand, like, in this environment where you're feeling maybe threatened and you're comparing yourself and you're feeling insecure, that you would be resourceful, that you would like try to do things to like make yourself feel more comfortable and more secure and more in control. But that is not the way.
Right.
Not the way.
Right. Being resourceful to better your relationship with Zach is one thing, but being resourceful to just take down somebody else.
Right. Right. And you see the women who get it, right? Like, in this same scenario, what did Ariel do? Ariel's so secure, right? She goes up to him, she finds a moment and she says, hey, I just want to check in with you because I know from our time together that one of your biggest fears is someone not being here for the right reason. How are you? that beautiful chef's kiss, like you're drawing on a previous experience, you're checking in with someone, you're showing someone that you care, and you deepen your connection with that kind of connection, vulnerability, and a little bit of a makeout, like tens across the board, Ariel.
Right. Well, and I was kind of thinking about this when you were talking about Kat, and like how when those hometowns come up, that perfect thing for Zach to do is like, hey, I'm thinking this could be something that's really difficult for you. What can I do? Or like how just like talk to me about it. That would be the perfect thing for him to connect with her and to like connect back to, again, to like something that she was vulnerable about.
Mm-hmm. I hope he does that. That's a sign of a really good partner. And if he doesn't, that would make me, if I were Kat, really concerned and like feeling like I wasn't really heard.
Right. I told you this amazingly intimate thing about myself, and you didn't even recognize it when I needed you to.
Ugh. Yeah. Good call. I mean, do you have we're 10 contestants left. Do you have a sense of like,
oh, now I suck at this. I'm so bad. I mean, like I thought Bailey was going far and she's gone. So
me too.
Yeah, I'm really bad at finding out, really thinking about who could be. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think?
I think Kat. I think Katie, who he went on last week.
Ariel?
I really think he wants to take her to Fantasy Suites.
No.
So maybe. He seems to also like really like Charity, but I could also see her maybe going before hometowns.
Yeah. Thinking of anyone else?
I think he has a one-on-one with Gabby next week.
No.
Not her.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. All right. Well, we'll come back with more and also react to some other TV coming out. So
yeah. Yes. All right. We will see you next time.